Yeah, order. You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, net migration to the UK has reached another record high, rising by a third compared to the same period a year ago. The figures from the Office for National Statistics showed the difference between the number arriving and leaving Britain was 82,000 more than the previous year. Asylum claims are also up, including around 2,500 from Syria. Our North of England correspondent Kieran Jenkins reports now.
OK.
All right.
Yes, I guess I'll just have a wash and go, please.
Wash and go, yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
On a wet Thursday in Manchester, a job that makes you even wetter. British people aren't exactly queuing up to work here.
Wash and go, please.
But there's plenty of cars for washing and workers from elsewhere in the world, eager to oblige.
A Romanian, Kurdish, very good worker for car wash.
For 23-year-old Cosmin, this is just a job, but one that pays a whole lot better than back home in Romania.
Romania, if you work one day, make about in Romania like a £10.
£10 for a whole day's work,
yeah,
right?
For 10 hours.
Yeah.
But here is £40. It's good for me, you know.
So how about this then? Do you want to stay here or do you want to go back to Romania?
I like to stay here because Romania no good life.
Cosmin is a small part of a big trend. A rise in immigrants from within Europe is the biggest reason the Office for National Statistics says that net migration is at its highest ever. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, sir.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Net migration now stands at 336,000. But that's not all that's up. The public finances are forecast to do much better too. And the main driver for that, says the Office for Budget Responsibility, is migration. There have been increases across the board. 201,000 came from outside the EU last year, up 36,000. Migration from inside the EU rose as well to 180,000, a rise of 42,000.
What it does underline is the very clear challenge that we have in seeing that the numbers return to the long-term sustainable position, which we judge is in the best interests of our country, and how that requires work not simply from the Home Office, but across the whole of government.
In Greece today, refugees continue their struggle through Europe, but our government's response remains to relocate refugees from camps on the Syrian border. And today we learned they'd admitted just 252 in total.
So Mr. Mahmoud is a builder.
A tiny fraction make it to the UK another way, to claim asylum as these men have done. Amaf says he finally feels safe.
People are dying on their way here, and then you see the images of people who are dying back in Syria and being killed on a daily basis. I am lucky. I am lucky, yeah.
Ultimately, though, it's Europeans, Chinese, Indians who are driving up net migration. As far as the refugee crisis goes, the UK is largely a spectator.
Kieran Jenkins reporting. Well, now there have been violent scenes in Calais today as police clashed with refugees and migrants trying to block a road and climb aboard trucks heading for the Channel port. Rocks were thrown at officers as they fired tear gas in an attempt to clear the crowds off the road. Our chief correspondent Alex Thompson witnessed the clashes and joins us live now from Calais. Alex.
Yes, this is becoming something of a daily event here, John, and I suspect these clashes, talking to local people, police and those in the camps, I have to say, both agree the situation getting worse and worse. In the camps itself, really, as the wider immigration figures showed today, there are an awful lot of Sudanese, Eritreans, as well as the Syrians that you'd expect, all desperate to come to Britain. That desperation spurred on by the news today that there are an awful lot of people now suffering from diseases, particularly scabies, in that camp, and there's nothing that can be done to stop that spreading at all in the conditions they're living in. Just another factor pushing people to take the most appalling risks, and we saw those risks at about 3 p.m. this afternoon up close. Mid-afternoon in the jungle and you can feel the tension suddenly rise. And there they are, charging along the embankment that borders the camp. It's the motorway into the port, into the UK. Slowed down, you can see one truck's trailer already prized open. 4 men at speed, risking everything on a truck. Another group tries to make a hole in the security fence to get to the motorway. For some time, the squads of police drafted into Calais are left playing catch-up as the motorway is closed. Tear gas and riot police behind me from the French CRS riot squads. The motorway, as you can see, blocked. This is a kind of standoff which is happening most afternoons here, though you have to say in the last few days it's got more and more intense. The police clear pallets from the carriageway thrown there by people to try and slow down trucks to jump on them. And then canister after canister of gas to push people back, trying to get to the lorries. One truck heading south, away from the UK, windscreen smashed by a stone. Driver, Andrew, furious.
What happened?
You go with this rock in my window.
Just over the bridge there?
Yes, I can't believe that.
Across the carriageway, riot police succumbing to their own gas. Tourists in cars caught up in it all.
Very good idea to sit here.
No, I know. Are you getting affected by the tear gas?
We are, yeah.
It's just the general atmosphere.
It's very hot.
You could be moving. You better get going.
Bye-bye. Bonne journée.
Gas, confusion, fear, despair. And still they attempt to get to the trucks stopped in the road. One driver evidently unaware his trailer's been wrenched open until the police told him. After an hour or so, the motorway was reopened, but the violence did not stop, particularly around this area, the main entrance to the jungle camp.
The action's moved from the motorway itself down to the underpass underneath. There's groups of people on the edge of the jungle, the camp, the refugee migrant camp. They're throwing rocks at the rocks coming in there. They're throwing rocks at the riot police, and the riot police, as you can see, replying with rounds of gas.
It's been a long day for so many in Calais. Long tailbacks early this morning as the port was disrupted. And in the filthy conditions of the jungle camp itself, scores of people now suffer from scabies. Medics say they can soothe the itching but cannot stop it spreading. Yet another reason they're desperate to get out of here, to confront the police, to confront the gas, anything to make it on a truck bound for Britain.
Well, George Osborne's U-turn on cuts to tax credits may have won him plaudits in the Commons. I think we're going to do that story in a minute. So now from Guildford is the UKIP MEP Diane James. And here with me is Barbara Roche, former Labour Immigration Minister under Tony Blair. Diane James first, the migration figures today. Shouldn't we be celebrating these? Because as the Office for Budget Responsibility makes clear, these figures are keeping the economy afloat.
Well, I don't think they are keeping the economy afloat, Kathy, but good evening to you, first of all, and also good evening to Barbara. Somebody ought to just take a rain check and take a step backwards and look at the cost of these migrant numbers ultimately to the economy. There's been data from the Migration Watch. I think there's also been data from the Department of Work and Pensions, both of which have highlighted the cost to the economy on the basis that these individuals take more out in terms of tax credits and benefits and such than they actually contribute.
Hang on a second,
then, of course, there's the long-term cost in terms of their non-contribution to pensions.
Sorry to interrupt, but let me just pick you up on that point. We'll come back to benefits in a minute. But the Office for Budget Responsibility, it's there in black and white. They say that they revised economic growth forecasts up, reflecting higher population growth, I quote, driven by higher net migration.
I didn't actually hear the first part of your question, Kathy, so I'm going to try and guess what you actually said.
Well, no, let me repeat it for you. The OBR,
it's to try and cover his tracks somehow.
Diane, let me just repeat that for you. The OBR
no, you're
says
breaking
that
up, Kathy, I can't hear a word now.
revised economic growth, they revised their economic growth upwards, reflecting a higher population, in large part driven by higher net migration.
Well, let's try and measure George Osborne by his own self-imposed government rule book. Long-term economic growth was predicated on capping the welfare benefit aspect and controlling migration. It looks as though he's going to fail on both of those elements.
Well, you haven't quite answered my question, but I'll try again in a minute. Let me bring in Barbara Roche here. Good for the economy, according to the OBR, but what is the limit on these figures?
I do apologise, Kathy.
I'll come back to you in a minute, Diane. Barbara, perhaps you could answer that question.
I mean, the first thing is, just let me say, with great respect to Diane, she's got her figures, completely wrong. It's not just the Office of Budget Responsibility, it's the OECD, who actually say that migrants put in much more than they take out. And the simple truth is this. When we look at what the Office of Budget Responsibility is saying, it is that basically part of our economic growth, part of our economic success is because of migrants. Now, if you really want to stop migration, then what you have to do is to do what Diane would like to do, which is to leave the European Union, because actually what we're seeing is people from elsewhere in the European Union, attracted by how well the economy is doing, coming here to work and study.
Okay, let me unpick one of those claims then. 43% of EU migrants are claiming benefits. That's a very high figure, isn't it?
It's very well. What is interesting, you're putting it together, but actually, certainly if you take in-work benefits, it reflects the portrait of those British workers who are in actually the same industries. But overall, we are net gainers.
Let me put that to you, Diane, then. 2/3 of EU migrants are claiming in-work benefits. They are working, these people.
Yes, but the point is, Kathy, you've hit the nail on the head. They're actually claiming benefits. They're having to be effectively subsidised by the UK taxpayer to work here. Without that subsidy by the taxpayer credits via any benefits that they claim, they wouldn't be able to survive here. And when you look at the statistics, the estimate is that half of them, or approaching half of them, are earning less than £300 a week. On the basis of that, they cannot work here, they cannot survive here, they can't live here effectively without that subsidy in terms of benefit support.
OK, let me put that to Barbara.
Well, actually, I think actually the reason why people come and what it usually shows is that actually people don't particularly know how the system works. They come here because of jobs, and the vast majority of people come here because of designated jobs. And this helps our economy. We do know that we have vacancies, nearly 1 million vacancies. They have to be filled. Yes, we have to do something about raising the skills level, but that's a long-term thing. But in the short term, businesses need those employees.
Just before you go, Jeremy Corbyn is presiding over a shadow cabinet utterly split on Syria. How much longer can this go on, and can he preside over this kind of division?
Well, I think for me, we are in, the most serious international situation. I support the vast majority of the shadow cabinet, which is we do need to join international action.
So can Jeremy Corbyn retain the confidence of his MPs?
It will remain to be seen. That's obviously, I'm not in the parliamentary party any longer, but that will be for the parliamentary party and, of course, for the party at large.
Barbara Roche, Diane James, thank you very much, and battling through that difficult line. Thank you, Diane.